Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. We are just going to wait for a few minutes so that more people can begin. More people can join. Let's just give it 2 to 3 minutes. In the meanwhile, of course, we're only 5 minutes away from the CAT exam. So please let me know in the comments, in the chat box, how things are going, how your preparation is going, how you're feeling. Is there a lot of anxiety? Is there nervousness, pre-exam? Of course, if you guys have questions, we will be taking questions with Chavi Gupta at the end of this session. So please make sure that you spam the chat reply with as many questions as possible, because I'm sure she is also excited to answer your questions. Okay, let's begin this session. Welcome to the fourth episode of Topcast and the third part of our CAT session. Now, this time I'm your host Melissa, as you know, and on today's live session we're going to have 100 percentiler Chavi Gupta, who is going to be breaking down LRDI and D-Day tips for you. Now, the exam is only 5 days away, so I'm sure this is the most important time. You've given months and months of preparation, and so we just want to make sure that in these last few days you hear from the people just like you, who studied for months and who cracked the exam. And I'm sure hearing from someone like Chavi Gupta will help you get into the right mindset and get into the right energy that you need for these last 5 days. All right. So without further ado, let's just give a quick clap in the chat reply for Miss Chavi Gupta.
Hi Melissa. Hi
Hi.
everyone. Thank you for joining in.
Hi. So this is our part 2 session. You've already done a session previously in where you covered quant and VARC. Today, as I'm aware, you will be breaking down LRDI and you will also be giving D-Day tips for all our aspirants. Is that right?
Yes, definitely, Melissa.
All right. So, of course, I don't want to keep everyone waiting for too long. So, let's kind of get into it. I'm going to give you the gears. Please go ahead and break down LRDI for us.
For sure. So thanks a lot for joining in. I hope you got a chance to go through the tips that we had talked about in VARC and Quant a few days back. Today, I will speak about LRDI, which is sort of considered as the make or break section. It is no doubt difficult, but it is not just difficult in its content. It is also difficult because of the other aspects that you have to be just ready for. For example, in LRDI, you need to know very good time management. You need to know to ensure that you are attempting all the sets. You need to know which sets to prioritize, which sets to leave, when do you let go. You have to ensure that even if you do not know a few sets, you are not feeling anxious, your mind is still in its full capacity so that it can solve the remaining sets and that it doesn't cost you a lot. You have to be focused enough so that you do not make any silly mistakes. So LRDI is a tough section, I agree, but believe it, everyone considers it as a tough section. I remember I gave a mock some 5-6 days before my CAT exam, and LRDI was the section where I really, got so panicky, had so much anxiety that I could not solve even 2 or 3 sets. And it was sort of, a good thing for me, because in the final exam, then I knew how exactly I will handle any anxiety if I get. So if you are facing anxiety in LRDI, if you feel you're not calm, if you feel it is very difficult, trust me, It's true for everyone. It is a very difficult a difficult section. And in general, CAT makes the section even more difficult. So it is true that it's a tough section, but you have to remember the 4 things that I said. You have to ensure that you are entirely focused, you are calm, you know how to manage your time, you know when to leave your sets. These are the main things I think you should practice in the coming days. I would not say do a lot of mocks. I would not say do a lot of new sets, new sectionals, and all. I would just say pick up some sets that you thought were very difficult, some sets that you were not able to do earlier, and lot more things like that. Just pick those sets up, do them again, do them in a very timed manner so that you know about time management. If you are doing sectional tests, ensure that you know which order you are going to do the sets in. Ensure you know when to leave that particular set. What I can do now is I can sort of tell you how I attempt the entire section, but ensure that you are using your own strategy. And if something else works better for you, please use that. So for me, what I used to do was that I used to pick up this LRDI section. I used to glance through all the different sets. In 2017, there were 8 sets in LRDI. So I used to just glance through all the 8 sets, see very quickly, like in total of 5 minutes, I would glance through all the sets, see very quickly whether it is heavy on LR, heavy on DI, has more charts, has more tables, or what. With that, I would just assume one sort of prioritization in my mind that, okay, this is the order in which I will do the sets. And that's it. That is the only time when I would glance through sets from one place to the other. Then I would start attempting these sets one by one. Now I would pick up the first set that is in my priority list. I will solve it for 5 minutes. And if I am not able to do it, I would skip and move on to the next set. Another 5 minutes, if I'm not able to do it, I'll skip and move on to the next set. The aim in LRDI is not to do 100% of the questions. That is very difficult. Unless the paper is superbly easy, you don't need to attempt all of the questions, even to get 100 percentile. So don't think that you have to attempt everything. Just ensure that the questions you are doing, you have high accuracy. In LRDI, what is needed is very high accuracy. You should have accuracy above 95% in this section. I'll just give like one last thing about my final day experience in LRDI. So what happened was, as I mentioned, my strategy, I gave in like 5 minutes. I gave in these 5 minutes to order the sets. I spent 5 minutes to do the first set and I could not do it. And then I had to leave it. I spent 5 minutes more to do the second set. I could not do it and I had to leave it. Now it is 15 minutes in the exam in that particular section, and I have done 0 questions. I was just on my way to get that anxiety attack, panic attack, and like feel like I cannot do anything. But because I had faced this earlier in my mocks and even in my previous year CAT paper, I just thought that, okay, no worries. I know this, I have prepared, so I will do. And the remaining 6 sets I was able to solve. And I got 100 percentile in LRDI section. So believe it, everyone panics, everyone gets that anxiety. It's just you need to know how to ensure that you don't let it get to your head, how to ensure that you do not really lose your focus or concentration or confidence at that time.
Absolutely. I think that is very, very important. And now these are like the last 5 days, right? So it's so easy to just kind of forget everything that you've been preparing for. It's so easy to forget your strategy. So what do you think, since we're talking about anxiety, since we're talking about getting panicky, and of course that will ruin the focus and the planning that you've had for months. What do you think are the sections in LRDI that can cause the most amount of panic or anxiety?
Well, I think there are a few things. One, people could be just afraid of, say, DI. They could be just scared of very big numbers, and that can definitely create some sort of anxiety. They could just be afraid of, some people are very comfortable with big numbers, but they are sort of scared of just the LR. What the CAT exam has started doing since last few days is that it gives a combination of LR and DI. Now that is very difficult because you don't know how to segregate it in LR or DI. and it requires concepts from everything. I think that is the biggest thing that makes people very anxious, because you don't know what will come. Earlier, I think around 2015 or so, the paper used to be divided into LR and DI. But now it is no longer that case. The questions are very, very intermingled. And that is why it is more and more difficult to figure out whether I will be able to solve this question or not. And that is why the strategy that I mentioned, that in 5 minutes or whatever time works for you, you have to figure out, can I solve this question? If not, you have to move forward. If you don't move ahead, you will get stuck in the set, and it might be the most difficult set, because it becomes very difficult to figure out the set just by the looks of it. That's why you have to ensure that you move on.
Right. And you were saying that it is more important to have accuracy in LRDI. Excuse me. But okay, let me ask you, in terms of strategy, do you think it's better to have speed, in which case you just kind of, just like speed through everything and kind of cover as much as possible? Or do you think you should just hope for accuracy, that you do the questions that you're absolutely 100% sure of, and you just aim for those and, hit those right in the target so that you're not wasting time? Which one do you think works out better when you're tackling LRDI?
So the best is obviously having high accuracy and good speed. But in general, that is very difficult to achieve. That's why I would say it's very tough to get like good accuracy with very high speed in LRDI. And that's why I said, you do not have to do 100% of the questions over there. If you know a question, if you have solved a question, if your accuracy is great, that is when you should attempt it. So try to improve your accuracy as much as possible. That said, I don't mean that you should just do 2 questions in the entire section. You should try to maintain your speed. And for that, the thing that works again is prioritization and knowing when to let go. If you know when to let go certain questions, then you will be able to maintain your speed while getting a high accuracy.
Perfect. I think that's absolutely true. Do you think there are specific aspects of LRDI that you think are more easier to crack than other aspects of LRDI? And what do you think? Do you think, I mean, of course, it would depend on each aspirant and what they kind of are good, where they have their strengths and weaknesses. But do you think, in general, there are any topics that are slightly more easier to just hit straight into the target, and you should probably focus on those more?
Well, as I mentioned, like the CAT exam has this entirely very, very difficult sets now. Okay. So I wouldn't ask people to do like very, very simple questions right now. The best way to go about it is pick up questions, pick up sets in the past that you have not been able to crack, and try to do them now. In the last few days, you cannot cover just a few topics and ensure that it just works out for you, because LRDI section is difficult. It is difficult. All you have in your control is your mindset and ensuring that you're prepared for the 4 things that I told before. Just ensure that you have the mindset set for that. And yeah, I think that is what you have in your control. And that is all you should think of.
All right. Chat section, we will take the LRDI specific questions at the end of the session. So please feel free to spam the chat reply. I will be sure to pick up the better questions and make sure that Chavi definitely gives an answer to that. So let's quickly move on to your D-Day tips. Now we know that the CAT exam is only 5 days away. Everything, it's time to, dress the table. It's all done. This is the last few hours that you have before the exam. Do you have any things that you would say we should do in these last few days, and things that we should completely avoid in these last few days?
Sure, let me break it down like that. Things that people should definitely do in the last few days: set your biological clock right. You know your slot, you know when your exam is going to be, you know when you have to wake up, you know when you have to eat, you know when you have to drink. You're not allowed to eat there, you're not allowed to, you're allowed to get up and get water, but that wastes very valuable minutes. So just ensure that you have the ability to sit down on your desk for the 2 hours that your slot is there. That is the major thing that you have to prepare for. That is a must do from your side. You should be giving mocks in that particular time. Even 1 hour before that, you should keep free, and you should not try to mug more things or study more, because 1 hour before your exam starts, even before that, you have to actually go to the exam center. You have to keep everything in place, and then you have to sit in front of the computer. So ensure you're doing that. If you have access, it's best to give mocks now using a mouse and a screen rather than typing things, because typing on keyboard is not allowed during the exam. Even online calculator, you have to use it only using the mouse. So ensure you have all of these things in place. I can actually walk you through maybe later on what exactly happened on D-Day, and that can also help you. But ensure as much as you're trying to simulate the final day situation while you are giving the mock tests. So this is a must do. You have to set your biology accordingly. If your exam is in the morning, you have to ensure that you're sleeping on time, you're eating normal, you're not doing anything that will be very different, make your day very different the next day on the exam day. Just ensure that you are doing all of that, and that is a must do. A few don'ts, by the way, would be taking your mock scores very seriously, especially the last few days. You are bound to get anxiety, you are bound to get a little panicky and all of that. Don't take these scores to your heart. What you have been doing is good enough, and what you should aim is that you do the best possible for you in the final exam. Do not take the final mocks much to your heart. Obviously analyze them, know what went wrong, but do not take them to your heart. Stop comparing with people. Stop talking to your friends who want to compare their scores, who want to know what question you got right, you got wrong, etc., etc. Stop reading about a lot of strategies about what you should drink, what you should eat before the final day. Just do what suits you. People will say all kinds of things that you should eat it or eat this or drink that. Just have a normal meal that you have, which makes you have a normal day, and that's it. So just focus on that. Yeah.
I'd like to ask you now, I mean, since you're giving so much of emphasis on, what you should and should not eat, and you're like, nah, you should have a very normal, natural day. What did you have the night before the exam, and what did you have the morning before the exam?
Well, I think it was so normal that I don't remember. So I think I would have just had like a very normal meal. And my mom took care of it. See, the idea is that it should not be heavy on you. It should not be so light that you get hungry in the exam. And it should not just make your stomach feel like a little sad, right? These are the
Yeah.
basic things that you have to take care of. Now, depending on what you like, what your cuisine is, go ahead and have that. But yeah, and another thing that I think is more important is ensuring that you don't get hungry, don't get thirsty during the exam. That is very important
Correct.
because it wastes a lot of time.
Especially because now the exam is only 2 hours. I think it's absolutely necessary that in those 2 hours you put all your focus on the exam and on nothing else, right?
Exactly.
Okay. Now that we're coming closer to the exam, it's very natural to feel. Again, we've already spoken about this in regard with LRDI, but I just want to talk about it in respect to the entire exam. You kind of get really tensed up, and you get very negative thoughts about you know like you've put so much hard work. What if you don't get the score that you want? What if the exam is too tough? What if everything, like all of these months that you've put in, in terms of practice, in terms of mock tests, in terms of studying, and you just don't crack the paper? Do you
Yeah.
think, I mean, of course, these are only natural human thoughts, but do you think there's any way to kind of make sure that you don't think like that? Or to kind of uplift your mindset, or to avoid doing or thinking certain things that will perhaps demotivate, or kind of make you start thinking in a very negative way?
Yeah. Um, so basically, let's start with kind of understanding why is it that we get these thoughts, right? The reason that we get these thoughts is that we start thinking about the future. We start speculating the future, that I have to get into X college. If I don't score so much, what will I do? I don't know what I'll do. Or for people who are taking gap years, etc., they feel like, if I don't get this, I don't have a job, I cannot do this and that. We start speculating the future a lot, while what is needed for important focus, for ensuring that you give your best, what is important is essentially knowing that I have to be in the present. That's it. it's a difficult thought to, have in your mind. It's a little difficult to just say that I will not think of the future, but just think that you have to be present in the today to ensure that your future is sorted, right? And that you cannot do anything about your future till the time you don't focus and emphasize on your present. So that is the main thing that you have to deliberately and consciously give to yourself, that okay, if I'm thinking about the future, okay, these are things I can think about later on, and today I have to just focus on the CAT exam. That's it. And this was a little difficult for me also to gather, was that initially I used to think about all different things, that I will only go to these colleges, what if I'm not able to get, I'm an engineer and the percentile is higher, and so on and so on. Then later on, what I thought was that I just have to become better in my CAT exam. I just have to improve my score. I stopped comparing with everyone. I stopped everything else. All I looked at, even when I was scoring like good mock percentile, all I looked at was the questions that I could not attempt, I did wrong. So these were the questions I used to pick, and I used to just ensure that the next time I cannot get these questions wrong. And that's it. So if you focus on yourself, you focus on your score betterment and on the present, then it will be possible. Obviously it's not easy, but that is something that you have to do.
Right. I completely agree. I think it's very tough to, especially when it's yourself, to convince yourself to do something. It's easy to tell other people, ki, nahi, this is how you're supposed to do it. But just kind of telling your own self these things is just super impossible. So I think a lot of self-discipline and self power is very, very critical in these last few days. Um, okay, I know that the CAT exam has these very specific rules and things to keep in mind before you leave your house. So do you want to just kind of run through those before, so that everyone is just reminded ki, okay, before I leave my house for the exam, these are things that I most definitely should have and I should keep with me, and these are things that I most definitely do not have to worry about because they will be provided by the exam center.
Yeah, I think the only things that you need to bring with yourself is your admit card. And if it is mentioned, then your government ID. And that's it. You do not need pen, you do not need rough sheets, you do not need earphones, you do not need anything else. It is advisable that you remove all possible metal from your body, because you just go through a quick check over there. During my exam, we were also asked to remove footwear. So I would have really liked if I knew it and I could have just worn like flip-flops, but it's just helpful to ensure that your flip-flops, any metal that you have, etc., nothing is super expensive, so that you can easily remove it if required. The rules should be written in your admit card officially, but individual exam centers and the supervisors that are there also sort of sometimes create rules, and you have to abide with them. So ensure that you're not carrying anything, nothing to eat, no water bottle, anything. There will be water coolers over there for you to drink water. Ensure your footwear is like easily removable. You do not wear metal, do not take any pen, do not take any paper, do not have anything written anywhere. And yeah, just ensure you take your admit card.
Yeah. All right. Just as like a last question from my side, and then you can probably tell us what your exam, the night before your exam, in the morning of your exam was. You can kind of run us through what you did, how your day was like. But my final question before you begin that is, I'm aware that, oh my goodness, I forgot my question. I was mid asking and I just completely forgot it. It's okay. I'll let you take it forward from here.
Yeah,
You can just kind of give us your how your night to morning to your entire journey was like, and
for sure.
perhaps you can also tell us what the results day was like for you, because I know that that can be a little bit motivating for some of our aspirants, because that is also something that you look forward to, right? So you can tell us
Yeah,
what that day was also like.
for sure. Okay, so for me, I had started like this entire biological clock setting 7 days before the exam. I used to wake up, I had my slot from 9 to 12, and I used to wake up at like I used to wake up around 6-ish, because I had to leave the house early to reach there by 7:38. I did that. I took note of the way that we are taking, how am I going, just ensured all logistics are checked. Made my sort of small bag early in the night. I tried to sleep early. I could not sleep very early, but I sort of fell asleep because my biological clock was almost set. So while I was anxious, I was a few hours late, but it did not affect me very much. In the morning, had like a normal breakfast or something, went to the place. Over there, I think I reached by 7:30ish, and over there again, as I mentioned, we had to remove our footwears, we had to ensure we don't take anything apart from our admit card. And then we went into the center, allotted computers and all. I just used it to check, like, okay, my mouse is working, my keyboard is working, everything is in place. I do not lose time because of equipment failure later on. I also try to analyze what kind of noise I will get at that place. And it is important because sometimes there might be like just some construction going on outside and you cannot help it, but you have to just work with that noise. So what I did in the 1 hour before the exam started, try to get acclimatized to whatever noise sound was going on. If there was some light that was hitting me or something, just try to do all of that. Just like 10 minutes before the exam, I went on, had water, did a bio break and all, and then I came back, and then I was set for the exam. 5 minutes before, I just sort of, breathed in and out, sort of did a little bit of meditation at that time, and then started the exam. Obviously, know what happened to me in the LRDI section because of the sort of little panic attack, but I tried to control it. The way that I controlled it was similar. I took like 30 seconds break. I was like, okay, I will see no question. I closed my eyes, just meditated for like half a minute, and then came back. And I'm like, okay, this is all I have. And these are the questions that I have to do. And I stopped thinking about everything else. One major thing that I followed was that I knew what was my strategy for different sections in the exam going to be. And this I did through, through like obviously months of practice, but also in the last week, I finalized how I will sort of attempt each of the different sections. And as I mentioned last time in the last live session also, that there are certain ways of doing VA, of quant and LRDI, as I mentioned today. So there are certain ways. I finalized my own personal strategy and I just stuck to it. Once I was through, well, I was through the exam. It just went on like those hours, you just don't know how they go away. Once I was through it, I came out. Just a few friends called me up, how was the exam and so on, and that was it. And then I just stopped thinking about it. Later on, 2 days later, we actually got like the exam paper and the key. I sort of tried to estimate my number of questions correct or not, and I sort of said, okay, I'll get good enough marks to get into whatever college I want to, and that was all that I thought about. A few friends were talking about, okay, will you get 100 percentile or not? But I, again, as I said, I stopped speculating about the future, so I did not do that. I was just like, okay, fine, I got good enough based on what I want. Fast forward to the result day. Result day, it was morning. I was about to go to office. Then we got the notification, CAT results are out. I came down, sat on my laptop, quickly checked the result. My parents were there. My sister was there. I got 100 percentile. We were super elated, super happy. Got a few calls from all of the people I had been starting with, and so on. And well, that was just something obviously great.
Of course, of course. And I'm going to just give you a quick congratulations. Um, that, it's such a huge thing to like crack the exam, and it's such a happy day. So I just want to give you a quick congratulations. I know that it happened a little while ago and it's kind of done
Thank
and
you.
dusted. You're already back into the working force, and you finished your IIM studies. But congratulations, I think, is very valid nonetheless. And okay, let's quickly take up some questions from
Sure.
the chat box. So someone here asks, ma'am, for the last few days, what should be the strategy?
Okay. So guys, see, in the last few days, the only thing that you should do is ensure that at the time of your slot you're studying, you are ensuring that your brain is at the highest capacity. You're sleeping on time, you're setting the biological clock. In the rest of the time, rest of the day, you can try to do more questions. You can try to do sort of, analyze your previous mock test. As I mentioned, you can revise using older questions or even attempt newer questions. That's all up to you. Do not take any score to your heart, and ensure that you are fully prepared to give your best during those 2 hours. That is all you should try to focus on in these last few days.
Right. I think another question that we have is about the I think the change in the questions. There is a speculation this year. We addressed this in the previous live session as well, that there are fewer questions this year. Do you think that will in any way change your strategy or change the way that you have to attempt or look at the paper?
I think one thing that you should do is when before you start the paper, you get that information page for the exam beforehand. Over there, it is written how many questions are there in individual sections. Just do a quick math, figure out what is the approximate per question time that I have. If I have a 40-minute section, what is the per question time that I have? Using that approximation as a benchmark in your head, give that much amount of time to each question in that particular section. So that should be your benchmark. Overall, right now, the benchmarks are, as I said, like for a 6-question RC, it should be around 10 to 12 minutes. For VA individual questions, it should be 2 minutes. For LRDI individual sets, should be 10 to 12 minutes. And for quant, individual question should be 1.5 to 2 minutes. So using that, just keep that in mind. And using that, use a similar math. Try to figure out that, how much time do I have per question in each section. And yeah, just use that as a benchmark.
All right. We have another question, which says that the current pattern is such that if you lose concentration, it's very tough to get back into the exam. Do you think there is any way to kind of go about it, how to keep your concentration in one place during the exam?
Well, few things that I mentioned are one, prepare beforehand. So use this week to prepare that to ensure that your brain is at full capacity during that time. The second is acclimatizing to your environment. There could be some noises, there could be some distractions. You have to just ensure in that 1 hour you get used to that background noise and actually send it to the background and not let it distract you. The third thing would be following the strategy that you have finalized on. There are so many people who on the exam day, because of anxiety, start doing something randomly different, entirely different than what they had practiced. Please do not be that person. Please do not do that. Ensure that you are following your strategy that you have followed and not taking from anyone else. If you're seeing like your partner write down summaries for RCs, doesn't mean that you have to do it. Like someone sitting on your side, right? So just follow the strategy that you have. Doing all of this, you will be confident enough because you have practice, you have everything, right? You're sorted. So you will be there. But still, if you feel that for a second or more you are distracted, just like take a little like half a minute gap, just take a break, close your eyes, meditate and come back, because you do not have a lot of time to lose in this particular exam.
Right. We have another question. What percentile should be considered as a good one in CAT?
100.
Really?
See, these are questions I generally don't answer, right? Any percentile
Yeah.
could be good for you till the time you're getting the college that you want. That percentile is good enough. That could be different for different people, that could be different for different streams, and so on. So the best percentile that you can get is the best, is considered to be good for you, and that is all you should aim for.
Of course. Okay. I think we have one more question. Someone asks, life after IIM in corporate life. Okay, I think this has really nothing to do with the CAT exam, but I mean, it gives a little insider to post the CAT exam and post your IIM, what life is like. So please go ahead.
Well, okay. So I think one thing that is in common across all of the graduates who get out from IIM and then go into corporate life is that we are actually tackling very good real life problems, getting impact out, getting a lot of things out. And it's really good to be in a place where you have the knowledge, where you have the ability to make a difference in the real world, right? It just feels very good after going through college, going through the theoretical world, and actually doing this in the practical world. Apart from that, things differ a lot. Everything from work timings to salaries to potentially, work life balance or anything that differs a lot based on the profile that people have. People could be in finance and consulting and operations and marketing, in HR and product management, and so on. So there are plenty of fields. One thing that I would say is that once you're done with your MBA, it becomes easy for you to get access to quite a few opportunities if you have given good enough, effort to your college plus to any future work that you do. So for example, I also switched from consulting to product management, and I had the opportunity to do that. And I think once you reach a place where you are able to make real impact, you are able to solve most of the problems, where you are able to apply your mind very practically, I think then you get all of the opportunities. So that is, yeah, I hope I answered your question.
I think you most definitely did. It's, I think, very nice insight to see that, once you finish the CAT, which is such a heavy thing, and then you finish your MBA and you're ready to kind of just share that knowledge into the world. And you have so many opportunities after that to kind of change branches or
Yeah.
kind of play around with what you think is a better fit to yourself. Right. So I think just doing your MBA helps you um, just gain more opportunities and more branches and find the fit that works for you. We have another question here. Please share, if we are unable to solve any RCs, then what should be the contingency plan if VA is diff? I presume VA is difficult. So what do you say?
Well, I would say still keep a very specific amount of time for VA. So in 40 minutes, I would say don't keep anything above 12 to 15 minutes for your VA questions. That is all you should keep, on an average 2 minutes per question. And that is all you should keep. Spend the rest of the time in RCs. Even if you feel you're unable to solve an RC, read through it again, read through the questions. There would be some questions which are directly coming from the passage and so on. Try to mark those questions as much as possible. VA is sort of a time sink. You can spend as much time as possible in VA and still not get it correct. So that is why I do not spend more than a certain amount of specified time in VA. Specify that time for yourself, but spend the rest of the time in RCs. Read them again if you have to. Read through the questions. Whatever you have to do, you have to do. Do not ensure. Obviously, ensure you should not leave like entire all of the questions in RC.
Got it. Um, Someone asks, can you suggest what should be my D-Day strategy? My slot is 1. Should I practice something in the morning to be able to give my 100%?
Well, so there are multiple things that people can do. Some people like journaling in the morning so that they get rid of all the excess thoughts that are there in their head, right? Some people like to meditate a little bit, just maybe, give a quick prayer or something. Some people like to speak to a few, speak to someone who's close to you so that you just get all of the anxiety out of you. It depends on you, what works for you. The most reliable technique, although, is to ensure that you are doing this every day, is to ensure that you are practicing through this, you are doing this in the next few days, you are doing it again and again, and you are giving a mock test in that particular slot. If you are doing that, you will sort of get that practice, and you will also know what works for me. Like, does meditation work? Does journaling work? Does just, sitting, closing my eyes work? Whatever works for you would be the best way. As I mentioned, I spent like 5 minutes trying to meditate before the exam started.
Right. Do you think there is any mantra that is like a sure set for something like this, something that you should do on the morning of? I know that we discussed do's and don'ts, but anything that you feel like you may have missed?
No, I think the only major thing that I realized over there was just to ensure that I am aware of my surroundings, but I'm not letting them distract me, because there might be invigilators walking around. You might feel a little distracted and so on. It's just getting used to those external things. And I think like that 5 minute of meditation really helped me get into the zone, get into the entire situation over there. I would recommend people just settle down like 10 to 15 minutes before the exam starts. Like, get your water, get whatever you have to before that. Just settle down 15 minutes before the exam, give enough time, get used to the brightness of that screen and so on. Just get used to everything around you. That is one thing that you should do, so that these are not the things that are distracting you during the paper.
All right. I think the last few questions that we have, one is about the online calculator. Someone has said that the online calculator is a little bit tough to work with a mouse. Do you think it's advised to just sit and do all of your math solving by hand on paper? Or do you still think that you should give the online calculator a go?
So it would depend on the type of question that you have. In general, in quant, there are not enough calculations that require online calculator. As you mentioned, online calculator is difficult to operate. It is, using the mouse, and then sometimes you double click and all, and it is clumsy. So try to minimize the use, but that doesn't mean that you don't have to use it. It is there for a purpose. If you feel there are like long numbers in DI and you would spend a lot more time writing it and solving it on your own, use the calculator. If you have to sort of say multiply four digits numbers, just use the calculator. Do not try to do it on your own, and so on. So whenever you feel there's a time benefit of using the calculator over your own calculations, please do that. If you feel you're very good with calculations, you can, just simply multiply things with 17 or something. You just know the table and it's easy for you. Don't use the calculator.
Makes sense. All right. And I think the last question that we have is on the DSC exam. Should you go with someone to the exam hall, or should you just prefer to take public transportation and go there on your own? Which do you think would be better, going with someone for the assurance and the comfort, or going on your own so that you're, with yourself and with your thoughts?
Well, there are multiple aspects to it, actually. I'll take you one by one. One is getting the comfort of company. That depends from person to person. If someone likes talking to someone through the day, just ensuring they are not getting anxious or panicky, that works better. Take someone along with you. The second is just the safety of stuff. You might take your phone, you might take a few things, you might take your wallet, etc. While there are lockers in the exam hall, it's not, I mean, you might just feel that it's not as safe. So having someone just assures you that, okay, there's someone to just take care of everything. The third is the assurance of reaching on time. Sometimes public transport might just screw up, right? I mean, the bus might break down, something might happen, and that will just put your anxiety through the roof. So to ensure that things like that don't happen, either leave before time so that you have some backup plan if you're going by public transport, or just go with someone. So these are the three things. Based on this, I mean, the minimum anxiety you will have is if you take someone. If it is not possible, it's completely okay. You can take public transport, but just ensure you have enough buffer time.
Of course. All right. I mean, those are definitely things that you should keep in mind, and you should kind of weight pros and cons wise, depending on how close the center is to you, what's convenient for you. Everything is kind of subjective in that case, right? There's no like specific one thing that works for everyone. Yeah. Right. So we have, I think, the last question. I keep saying the last question, but more and more questions come. But this is a really brilliant question, and I think you should definitely answer.
Sure.
I have scored a 98th percentile last year. So this year, I enter the exam hall with more expectations from my friends. How do you deal with that kind of pressure being a topper?
Well, the only way to do it is to ensure that it is only you who expects something from yourself, and let the world just be, right? Like everyone will expect 100 things from you. I think the time when I got into IIT, there were people expecting like a 1 crore package. I don't care what people are expecting. I just have to do what I like. I have to go into the job that I like, the field that suits me, and so on. So yes, there will always be people expecting X, Y, and Z things. And there's no way that you can complete all of the expectations of the world. The only way to do it is to just let those things go out from your mind. Don't talk to those friends who say, oh, this time you will get 99, this time you will get 100, and so on. Stop talking to those friends for the last, for the next 5 days, and so on. Just know that you have prepared and you will try to do your best. And that is the only expectation you should go into the exam with. The more expectations you have, the more panicky the situation is, the more pressure you will have, the more stress you will have, and you will do more silly mistakes and things that you will not be able to, feel okay with. So just go with expectation that, okay, I'm going to do my best. That's it.
Right. I think most definitely we are our own, our biggest supporter, and we know ourselves the best. We know what we expect. We know what we want. We know what we deserve at the end of the day. And so, I mean, yeah, people can keep talking and you just kind of have to make it background noise, especially when you're, just 5 days before the exam. So I hope that answers your question, Rahul. And we have a question from Navya Gupta. This is more of a personal question. She asks, what college degree do you have and from which college? So I think you can do like both your bachelor's and master's.
Yeah. So I did a dual degree in biotechnology engineering from IIT Delhi. And after that, I worked for 2 years in an analytics consulting firm. And then I did my MBA degree from IIM Ahmedabad. Yeah, during IIT, I also did like a minor degree in computer science. But yeah, these are all the degrees that I have.
My goodness, that's a lot of I's that you've accomplished. Okay. All right. I think that wraps us up for today. I think we've covered quite a lot of topics, and I think that everything that you've said has been so motivational and such a good insight into the exam. I'm sure that everyone who is giving the paper this year, or even aspiring to sit for next year's paper, I'm sure there's a lot that they can take away from the last two sessions that we've had. And I'm so thankful for you for coming and giving us this time and kind of sharing all your tips and tricks. Do you have any final words that you would like to share with everyone watching?
I would just say, believe in yourself. You have done enough. You have put in your efforts. Do not just doubt yourself. Do not let self doubt or anything creep in because of any external or internal thoughts. Just do not let that creep in. You have done it. And this is just the last leg. This is just like another mock that you will give. So good luck for that. And yeah, I hope that you do great.
All right, Shavi. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your tips. And I hope that we have you back, maybe perhaps to do a question analysis of this year's paper. Perhaps we can just have another conversation like this. And I wish you the best of luck with everything that you are doing. And again, thank you for your time.
Thank
Also,
you
to
so
our
much.
audience, thank you so much for staying here, watching, asking questions. I wish you the best of luck for your exam because I know it's the last few days. Keep in mind everything that we have shared and discussed in the Topcast episodes. Again, we have another episode that we've already finished with Chavi, where she has discussed. Quant and VARC. We also have a session, a question paper analysis that we did on Sunday with Shweta Rai. So make sure that you go and watch those as well because all of both of these sessions, as well as this one, has so much of information that you can grasp and take and keep ready with yourself for your final D Day. So I think we'll just wrap up the live session with that. Thank you so much, Javi, for your time. Have a wonderful evening ahead. Bye bye. And thank you to our audience. I hope you have a wonderful evening as well and you are ready to crack the exam. Best of luck and stay tuned for more Topcast episodes. This is Melissa and I'm signing off. Bye bye.